Hi there, and welcome to Tables 1 from our Google Docs videos. We are going to be inserting a table, and when you have a file that already exists, we can open it using the file picker. It's this folder that's here, so that's a way to upload files, but in our case here, we're just going to use a blank document. So to insert a table, oftentimes a table will need a heading, in which case it's a good idea to, press the enter key so that you're getting one extra space on your page. I'm going to title this sample table 1. And then in order to get our table into there, we're going to insert a table. And we sort of have to count out in advance how many columns and rows that we want. So in this case here, I'm just going to do a 4x5 table. So in my table here, I'm going to put my headings. So for example, I'm going to have a list of pets, and then their food, their toys. Oops, capitalize that. And their dishes. So I'm just going to enter in just a little bit of data. For my headers, I'd like for them to stand out a little bit. So I'm going to highlight those guys and go inside my font area, maybe give them a nice looking font. Conforta, maybe make it a little bit bigger. I may also choose to change the columns size. So you move your arrow right over top so you get the double-headed arrow. And when you get that double-headed arrow, you can click and drag that. So you can adjust the size of the columns. Across the top, I'm thinking that I'm going to want to put a bit of a header, but still have some shading in this area. So I can go across the top. Now there's two ways to make adjustments to your actual table. One is by going into format, table, and then table properties. These changes apply to the entire table as opposed to just one cell or one row or one column. So if I'm going to change the table border, let's say to a red border, we'll see that the entire table gets changed, which I don't want. So let's instead just make alterations only to the cells that we have highlighted. And we do that by going up into our menu bar and getting our paint can, which is our background color. Before I get into that, I also want to make mention that perhaps your screen is zoomed in or not zoomed in. And if you want to make changes, let's say you can't see all your buttons on your toolbar, it's Control and then plus. So this is a keyboard shortcut, Control plus. I'm zooming in on like both my file, but also notice my buttons are much bigger. It's great if you can't see well, but you're losing a lot of your buttons by zooming in. So if you find that you don't have all of the buttons you need, just push Control minus, so subtract, and then you should be able to see all of your buttons across the top. So I highlight my area and now I don't see my paint can. It got hidden there. So let's zoom out. I like to see that when I'm looking. So I'm going to color that in maybe with a nice blue. I'm seeing that I'm also got these lines across, and I want to have just one centered title. So what I want to do is merge these cells, which means to make them into one cell. If I right click and go to merge cells, that makes this like one mega cell. And I can do my alignment features. So I can have my cursor so I can have my cursor either on the left side, I can have it aligned on the right side, or I can have it in the center. So we'll make this a little bit of a bigger font. Maybe bold that up a bit. That looks good. One other thing that I'm thinking that I don't want is I don't necessarily need this border around the outside of this cell. So in my border colors, so just beside, you click the down button, and then you could either change it to white, or you could change it to like a 0 point, in which case you have no border. So our second one here, maybe I'm going to make these guys a really thick border, maybe something like a 3-point border, but we'll color it up a bit. So, whoops, I'm sorry. Make that a transparent background. But we'll color up the border, but not necessarily the shading. So I have no shading in my list, but my border is teal and thicker. So the points are the weight of the line. It's similar to the lines for arrows that we looked at in the graphics activities. So something like a 3-point line would be a thick line. That's quite a thick line. In terms of data, we can insert our data, and then sometimes you can align just the specific areas to be right, centered, or left. We can change the border. So here we had a thick border, here we had no border. We might even change it so that it's like a dotted or a dashed border. We have to come back up here and rechange this guy so that he's a nice regular thick border. So we can shade in tables. We can add border colors and border styles, and also border thicknesses. We can merge our cells, and we can certainly resize these columns and these rows in order to accommodate the data that we want to put in there. So very versatile feature in Google Docs.